Welcome to the Guildford.Games Festival interview sessions. We are here at Criterion, the hallowed halls, and I'm joined by John. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Not bad.
Good.
Not bad. It's quite warm under the lights, but other than that, I'm okay.
That's
I'm okay. So, John, what we're going to do, we're going to start at the beginning as far as your career. So tell us how you got into the games industry.
So yeah, I actually wanted to be in the games industry for the longest time. Decided that I wanted to be in the industry since I was at school, really. Had the classic sort of, are you sure that's what you want to do from the teachers? Yeah, is that a job? Can you get paid for that? But yeah, it worked out. I thought originally I was going to be, wanted to be in animation until I found out the extensive amounts of skill and knowledge involved. And ended up actually doing a degree in multimedia and graphic design because I was still a bit unsure, which is totally fine actually for a lot of people that are wondering. You don't have to know exactly what you want to do.
I still don't know.
No, I mean, yeah. I ended up making a game for one of my final year projects with my good friend Matt, and kind of haven't looked back since, and just started out my first official job in the industry at Sega at QA. So.
Very cool. That's so interesting though, that the path that you take then leads you to QA, which I know a lot of us start out in doing QA roles, but it's such, it's viewed as, oh, it's entry level. Oh, if anyone can do QA. QA is hardcore.
Proper.
Yeah, really hardcore.
Yeah. Like it really is a discipline in its own. And quite frankly, like it's been bandied around, but actually the games would not get shipped without QA or QV as we call it now. And yeah, the guys and girls doing QV are amazing. Like the dedication that it takes not only to find all of the issues that are there, but actually think about all the test scripting, basically all of the things that the devs don't see. So being able to come through and find those pieces, they essentially make the game that much better.
Yeah. And it's down to a team dealing with intense repetition.
Yes.
And probably ending up knowing that game better than the team individually, because the QA team are getting to look at it as a whole.
There's definitely times QV team have said to me, hey, this bit of the design, I'm like, is that how it, they're like, yeah, that's how it, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, amazing, okay. That's really cool. So what would you say up until this point, and we'll get into some other deets, but what's been your proudest career moment to date?
Ooh, there's been a bunch of different ones actually.
Ooh.
I think obviously most recently with Need for Speed Unbound being released, there was something very specific within the design area. Actually seeing a lot of the responses on social media and from the players, and even from reviewers actually, and people in the industry, actually really getting the design. And that's happened in previous games before, but it was there was almost times when they were quote unquote saying the direction back in there, and so that was really cool. That was a really great feeling.
Cool.
Yeah. Not only for myself, but obviously for the whole design team, the whole team in general. But it's nice to know that because we did go a little bit different with Unbound as well. We did try something a little different with the campaign. So seeing that people got it, understood it, and liked it, it was really great. So that was great. Separately, then there's been kind of stuff outside of the studio itself. So. As a member of BAFTA, which is great, which is also supported by the studio, which is amazing. I've worked with young game designers for BAFTA, been fortunate to be a judge for them 4 times now,
awesome.
I think. Just seeing the creativity and inspiration that comes out of those guys every year is phenomenal. Seeing all the different kind of concepts they come up with, a lot of the time I end up doing the judging for the actual game making within that, and seeing the kind of not only the technical know-how that they're bringing, but the kind of design ideas they're bringing is amazing, but a bit scary as well, because they're definitely coming for people's jobs.
They're coming for you. Yeah. For everyone. Yeah, for sure. For me, it's like the thing that I love about that, but I wonder if you have a similar kind of thing, is that realization when you end up doing something like judging young game makers through BAFTA, that you have to take a moment and realize that you have become the senior. It's such a bizarre situation, because games still feel so new, right? And through everything we do, I think the reason that the games industry can still feel so new to us, even though we're going back to the 80s at this point, it's older than me, I think, well, the same kind of age. But the reason it feels so new for us, I assume, is because we're constantly having to learn and evolve and adapt.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
New tech, new stuff's coming through all the time. But that realization that, oh, hang on a sec, I'm now at the level of seniority that when I entered the games industry scared the life out of me.
100%.
It's
and
crazy.
The imposter syndrome is real, for sure.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, that proudness, that kind of realization of like, actually I can give something back to the industry.
I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but yeah.
We all do sometimes. It's okay. So bringing it back to Criterion, because you guys have kindly allowed us to come and set up in your space, and it's very exciting stuff. Yeah. What do you think makes it such a special place to work? Because the longevity of the staff members here, of which you are a testament to, so many people just want to stay. EA Criterion.
Yeah, that in itself was just before this. I was looking up when did I start, and it was it's coming up 13 years now, which is insane. But yeah, to that point, it is the people. It's always the people. So there's people I've known here for those 13 years, and you do end up you're not colleagues. You are friends, and it sounds cheesy and but
it's real.
It is real, and actually, it's one of the biggest strengths of Criterion. And actually, a lot of that is down to the hard work that some of our very senior leadership put in. Like their kind of drive to make sure that the working environment is good for the people working here. So, and it is just. I don't know, we almost have to stop ourselves sometimes in the middle of a meeting or at the start of a meeting. You kind of have, this is where DDs tend to come in quite handily. You'll have a lot of banter and a lot of just conversation and whatever's happening. It's like, okay, guys, let's
bring it to work.
Let's bring it back to work. But it's never a shortage. No one's ever kind of just starting a meeting going,
I've got nothing to say.
Yeah,
absolutely. So. And that, in itself is so important because as those new members of the team that come in, they need to feel like, okay, I have a platform here just like everyone else does. I've got the ability to join in with with a bit of banter and all that kind of stuff. But after that, I'm just as capable as everyone else of standing up and saying, this is what I think needs to change, or if it's just as simple as this is blocked, wherever. But
and I'd like to think that it works as well, because when we have our interns, on a yearly basis come in, it's only a matter of weeks before they're very much involved in the conversation. They feel comfortable enough to then not only put forward ideas, but again, they're given kind of banter themselves, which is amazing because we do work pretty hard on the process for when we're hiring as well, and when we're getting people in, just to make sure that, hey, actually, this is somebody that's really going to benefit from this environment.
You guys are really hot on the personality fit. I mean, a lot of games companies are, right? But that's a big deal for EA, as I recall.
It's not to be exclusive or anything like that. It's more just to be that because it is such a close-knit team, and we do understand the value so much of everyone kind of pulling in the same direction and having that same kind of mentality, that it is important. But we find that people fit in very easily. Yeah,
that's it. And this may be just because it's on my mind, and it's going to date this interview a little bit, but most recent episode of The Apprentice.
Okay.
And they kept saying there's two people that kept very clearly making their point, which was not the point that everyone else wanted to run with. And they were calling them disruptors. And it's really had me thinking about that term, because I've never actually used it before, but then realizing how easy it is it doesn't even need to be someone with a negative drive or any kind of bad feeling or thought towards the project or the company, but how easy a disruptor can come into a group of really, a well-oiled machine of creativity that's pumping out the hitting all their beats, etc., and how easy that can be disrupted by someone just pulling it in a slightly different direction.
Yeah, I mean, we always try to make sure as well, though, that people have, if they've got a different opinion, still raise it. Just make sure you raise it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just don't go on about it because you didn't get your way.
But just make sure you raise it in the right way.
Yeah. So, and ultimately, as we were talking about before, it's all about if you do get to the end of the project and the thing that you were saying wasn't going to work doesn't work, then you've got a perfectly good reason to walk into your breakdown of how everything went and say, this is what I wanted to do. Can we try and do it next time?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of stuff does EA Criterion put on at the studio to keep you guys all connected? I know you obviously with lockdown you've all been long distance and still releasing amazing games, which is blowing the world's mind. I promise, collective mind. What does the studio do to keep you guys feeling a part of it all?
Yeah, so we tend to get lots of different groups of people within the studio then setting up their own either after work, during lunchtime, that kind of stuff, like almost like mini clubs. Nice. And then the studio are trying to facilitate that as much as possible to help out if anything needed. So during lockdown, we had a lot of opportunities where people were then on Slack, for example. We'd have then Slack groups, we've got like a fighting game Slack group. We've got like a Rocket League was really big, and has always been really big here. Lots of times actually. So we've kind of got the sanctioned stuff, which will be done by the studio itself. So Christmas parties, wrap parties. We have a great summer party as well. But then there will be a lot of the individual stuff as well that's done by people within the team. So countless number of times that I've been late for trains because it's like, one more game of Rocket League. It's fun time.
As long as it's not that last train, you're
exactly.
All good. Although I'm sure we could scour out some comfy places for you to sleep in this office, more than likely.
Not that I've ever slept in the studio.
No one would ever do something like that. Not ever. I like that though. I like that. It's something that seems to happen throughout the industry that I've seen at least. That it's really is encouraged to have those additional creative outlets, and whether that's playing video games or painting models or having a band, whatever. That it's awesome when a studio really starts to kind of foster, do more. What else do you want? What do you need? Let's look at ways to make this even more creative and welcoming.
Yeah, something that I hadn't thought of actually is that on a daily basis, so our lunch break is usually from about 12:30 till 1:30. Then we actually build in an additional half an hour till 2:00 where it's reserved time for everyone to play games together.
Nice.
So if you've got something that you're playing at lunchtime that you want to jump on and play together, if you want to do it in person on one of the TVs or whatever, then it's great. CAF also sets up some really nice areas within the studios for like retro gaming, for example. So we've got some cool TV upstairs with retro consoles and stuff as well.
Cool. Yeah, that kind of stuff is really important because that's, if you think back to childhood, and especially as people that loved video games, my closest friendships were forged over Mario Kart, over Clay Fighters, over
sure.
all of these games that we sadly, well, apart from Mario Kart, which I still play to death. But yeah, they really, having that rapport and being able, like you said, with the banter, being able to make a little bit of a joke and know that you're in a safe space and everyone understands that, the humor and the level that you're on.
Yep.
All of that kind of additional extra curricular creativity really kind of helps.
Yeah, just once you feel more at ease with somebody that you've, stupidly had a game of Mario Kart together and, one lost however it is and, shouted at each other. Then when you go into a meeting afterwards, it just kind of diffuses any of that, worries around, I'm going to put forward this idea or that idea. You just feel more at ease. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So Criterion is obviously part of the wider EA family. Do you guys get to work with the other teams and studios and vice versa, or is it all quite insular?
No, we've been actually really fortunate to work with quite a lot of the studios in EA, actually. We've obviously worked extensively with DICE on Battlefield, on Star Wars Battlefront. And we've even had small stints with Respawn, for example. So some of our audio designers helped out with Jedi Fallen Order. And more recently, obviously, we've then kind of expanded a little bit as well. So we've got our Criterion North studio as well, which is, obviously some of the people that have been coming from Codemasters. So really bringing everyone in together. And once it's strange, once we've started working with either some of those people from different studios or now that we've got other people in from like Criterion North, for example, everyone you forget very quickly who's part of Criterion, who's not. It just becomes like
one
big
group.
You're like,
cool.
Such and such, they're the perfect person to talk to for this. And actually even outside of then projects, if you're not directly working with each other, if there's somebody say over at DICE, if there's somebody say, over at Respawn, like for example, there's somebody I'm chatting with over in the skate studio at the moment, just to be able to bounce stuff, it's really collaborative in that sense. So you can just reach out and say, hey, here's a problem I've got, how have you guys dealt with this?
Yeah, so. It must be so valuable because it's one of the things that developers, the development process is traditionally bad at knowledge sharing because so much of it is locked down and people are terrified of saying the wrong thing or saying too much or, whatever. But to have that collaborative space where you can go to someone that's worked on entirely different titles to you who may just have that perfect little bit of knowledge that's going to help pull everything else forward. That's awesome. And
the nice thing about it is I haven't come across anyone yet within EA who's just been like, actually, I'm kind of too busy.
Leave me alone.
It's strange. Everyone's so, and again, it sounds a little cheesy or whatever, but it's the truth is just people are so forthcoming and wanting to be like, actually, I can help you with this, or hey, have you thought about this? So
that's what happens when you really care about your work.
That's great. Yeah,
that's what
really
happens.
Good.
So you've been here a little while. been kicking around EA for a little while. So would you say there's anything you've noticed as far as the Guildford games industry that's changed considerably? We can make it wider games industry if you'd rather, but if we could focus on Guildford.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been more studios that have come to Guildford. There's kind of a bit of a hotbed in terms of universities in Guildford, actually. So you find that there's lots of students around that, which is then great to then try and bring in.
I've really noticed recently that the colleges around have just kind of picked up on, wait, games. Wait, games. So, it's really cool.
Which is fantastic. And just in general, I think like the games industry, I was just driving into work this morning actually and hearing about the revenue generated by creative arts this year. And, you know, gaming is obviously very much up there.
Can you remember the figure? I'd love to know.
4.1 billion, I think, by not by gaming itself, but by the whole, creative arts.
That's cool.
Yeah, and, you know, and FIFA and Elden Ring being quoted as really helping those numbers. So
it's starting to change, isn't it?
Yeah, which is amazing because then when, you know, if somebody is a little bit out of touch with the industry and does come to somebody younger who wants to work in the industry and goes, are you sure that's the right thing? You just go, hey, look at this.
Yeah, 4.1 billion.
Yeah, I think,
portion of.
I think it's a good idea. So
yeah, absolutely. And why do you think Guildford is so important to the games industry? I mean, never mind the fact that it's got this rich racing history that you guys and other studios are kind of building on, but what do you think is so
I don't know. I think, it's got there's quite a big history within Guildford of, not only the previous games that EA's worked on here and created here, but, you know, you've got older companies like our older studios like Bullfrog and, we've got other people here like Supermassive and we have, there's tons of
this is it. We could be here all, maybe not all day, for a good hour talking about just naming all the different studios.
I think it's part of its location, I guess, because it's not quite in London, but it's definitely nearly as expensive. But
it's up there.
It's a beautiful place as well because, you know, you've got the kind of rich history from the actual city itself, the town itself.
1066, William the Conqueror, man. That is so cool. Sorry, it's on all of our, the tower is on our Guildford Games logos and stuff on our most recent thing that we had made up. But yeah, I was sitting there looking at it the other day thinking, William the Conqueror, that's mental. Yeah, we got that too. There you go. Add that to your video games.
But I think, because it's quite a, not only like a close-knit kind of community within Guildford, so, there's a lot of people that are able to reach out and say, hey, if you're looking for a role, then there's lots on offer.
Yeah.
Also, just the way that Guildford's set up kind of geographically, I guess, is that it's easy to get everywhere. Like it's easy to do a tour of all of the studios.
Yeah, exactly. on your lunch break. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And I think that's the friendships that are formed, and it's not cheesy, by the way, to say that. I think any borderline gets to cheesy when you start saying family, but I've done it, so I'm not gonna. It's fine. It's totally fine. Lionhead was a family. I'll take that to my grave. Wait. I'll die on that hill. No, there we go. That's what I meant. I got it.
We have ex-Lionhead people here. They feel the same. It's fine.
It's good. What those friendships create is an opportunity that, there doesn't really seem to be the fear of competition within Guildford Studios because we all understand that someone may come on board for an RPG and then something else may be down the line as far as what's next for the studio and they may not want to work on that, and that's cool. But through forging all of those friendships, it means that we've got opportunity to sit and go, man, I need someone who would be, I know exactly who would be perfect for this. Let's see if they're around. And, you kind of know, talking about that culture, who's going to fit in because of your knowledge of the community already, which is cool.
When you were saying about the industry in general, I think that is the industry in general. Like it is a huge industry, as we've just said, but it's very small at the same time. Like you end up knowing so many people from different places, like the longer you're in it. So it's great.
Because you spend so many hours sitting with them.
Or online.
Playing video games, learning stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's jump to, are there any potentially untold, absolutely not going to get you in any trouble, behind the scenes tales you could tell us? Just one.
I don't know if it's behind the scenes, but it might be less known. But when we were working on the Starfighter Assault 2, we had a really great, we still do have a really great collaborative relationship with LucasArts and, with Star Wars. And we actually ended up being able to present and create some bits of Star Wars lore. So for one of the levels on Starfighter Assault 2, which was set in Dakar, which is actually just before the film starts, we actually end up creating these things called gravity wells. And so they're a piece of gameplay. Like, I really wanted us to have a slightly different piece of gameplay than we'd already had for the other previous levels, because this was sort of a bit of a DLC. And I really wanted to affect the ships themselves. So there was these gravity wells that kind of pulsed in and out, and they actually push and pull the ships in as they were kind of going off. So together with the design team, the art team, the audio team, like, we all came together and put a pitch forward to Lucas, and they accepted it, and then it became canon.
That's so cool.
Yeah, amazing. And Lucas, like, as a company, are fantastic. Like,
oh my God.
So yeah, being able to create that was pretty special. And actually, we had a very similar thing on our VR game that we made. If I can remember, it's called Star Wars Rogue One X-Wing VR mission.
It's a real catchy, catchy title.
Easy, rolls off the tongue. But yeah, we actually end up kind of designing the cockpit for the X-Wing in there, and the kind of various buttons. And in VR, it was amazing to be able to look around and then be able to press these buttons and stuff. And for the particular model of X-Wing that we'd put in, then that got used as canon and then put back into some of the art books and stuff that they put out. So yeah, it's being able to influence those kind of things.
But it kind of gives you that insight into how these huge, brands and franchises that we've, that have been a part of us all of our lives, that there's still room. There's still room to go in there and add things that can make it even better. And I mean, that's how I feel about Rogue One in general, that it's added something to the franchise that then kind of makes everything else so much more interesting again, even though you've seen it all 1,000 times. But yeah, I love the notion that there's still room for little connections to be made and lore to be pulled together and knitted in there. That's wicked.
What's nice is just that collaborativeness of when you realise you come, to a behemoth like Star Wars, and you think, okay, is this going to be locked down? How's this going to be? Then you just see the people on the other side are just creatives too, and they just want to make something cool.
And they respect you guys for the awesome work that you do on their franchise. So yeah, why wouldn't they listen?
Which is amazing.
Amazing, really cool. Okay, there's someone out there watching our little chat today who wants to get into games, who hasn't got a clue. Like you said, you're the course that you took was very much to try and find where you fit within the digital creative kind of space. What advice would you give to anyone out there who is unsure?
Yeah, for sure. The best thing really is if you have any kind of inkling on what area interests you, so be it narrative, be it storytelling, be it on the art side of things, be it on the audio side of things, design. If you have any kind of inkling on that, then dig into that further. If you don't, that's totally fine. Just prototype. Get in there and use any engine that you want to. There's so many resources online now, not only within the engines themselves, so like Unreal or Unity or anything like that. They'll have tutorials themselves, but you just go on YouTube and there's hundreds and hundreds, and just start messing around. Just get in there, just start, have an idea, even if it's the simplest thing. I want to have it so that I can bounce a ball off the wall 3 times and then see how many times that I can keep it up on the, something very simple. But once that's done, try and create a full loop if you can, so that you just have something which is kind of end to end, so it kind of works, and then just keep experimenting. And you'll soon see as you start to prototype, though, actually I prefer this bit over that, or actually doing, the audio side and stuff was really interesting for me. So hopefully that then helps you to
form it from
where you
there.
want to go.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, all right, John, we're going to do the final and what some might say the most important question of our chat, which is your favourite Guildfords game, please.
This is I feel this is tough, because do I want to say a game that's been made by Criterion? Yes.
How many are listening? Are your bosses listening? We won't tell them.
I don't think the bosses are listening, but honestly, I'm going to say Burnout Revenge. And the reason is because it's probably one of the games that actually got me to want to be in the industry, kind of cemented that reason. And the reason for it was because there was this kind of saying that a lot of my friends had, and I've heard subsequently since joining Criterion, which is, I'm not really into racing games, but I really like Burnout. And it's funny that the amount of people that have said it.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of started. And it wasn't that I didn't really like racing games, it's just Burnout just really grabbed me
Yeah, totally different way to play a racing game, right? Yeah,
and
different angle.
Revenge especially, because there was a year, I think it was my second year of university, where I decided not to come back home for the summer holidays. So I stayed there with my best friend, and we ended up working. And then we'd work during the day, then during the night we'd come back and play Revenge. And we weren't moving on from any level until every gold had been got.
Nice.
So we literally just worked our way through until we'd got all of the golds on it.
That.
So yeah, it was amazing.
I like a good challenge.
Oh yeah.
That's cool.
I'm always doing those kind of silly things to myself. So,
well, why not? But but you're learning. And you were learning all the way back then, you know, that, okay, this is something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah.
And it may have taken another few years to unlock exactly the direction that you were going to go, but it was initially there, the flame.
Yeah, the flame, yeah, definitely, the burnout, yeah.
Cool. John, thank you.
No, thank you.
So much. This has been really, really fun.
Great.
Cheers.
Thanks.